So we're going to do a brief share out, and the way this is going to work is that I am going to ask somebody who's courageous and also willing to, from each table, to share out either an idea or a question or a tension that you heard in the discussion at your table that you think would be thought-provoking for other people in the room. And we're going to go in order of the way that the tables are laid out here. So I'm going to start by asking if anyone from the table that was talking about building a culturally responsive community is willing to share out a thought, an insight or a tension or question from the discussion. And you shouldn't feel responsible for summarizing everything. All you need to do is share out one insight, question, or tension. Thank you, courageous person.
Hi everybody, I'm Sarah Creed. I'm coming from the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. And one theme that was wrapped up nicely at the end in terms of the question was how do we sustain equity and racial consciousness is a true priority in our schools. So we think about our communities start with our children, so how do we create environments that are prioritizing these things? And really throughout the conversation, the two common threads that came up were hiring teachers of color and training our teachers in cultural competency. And I thought it just really wrapped up nicely at the end. All of our ideas kind of fit into the idea of how do we sustain equity-driven policies, equity-driven practices into our social emotional learning.
Thanks so much, Sarah. Can I get a representative from the table who was talking about the district perspective, a courageous person, to share a thought, question, or tension that came up? Can't be Colin.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. I'm sure you didn't. Courage.
I'm Joanne. I'm also from Yale. But from the consultation center, the other center, we're trained to be courageous. We were talking about a lot of things, but I think one of the things was in the midst of focusing within urban districts on promoting equity and cultural competence among teachers, what do we also do with all our urban districts? Because the fundamental problem is this idea of scarcity and that people have don't want to live. So that's the other real big issue too. Is we can do a lot within urban districts, but fundamentally there is systemic inequity. And what do we do about that?
Yeah. Thank you so much. You can clap if you want. Okay, can I get a representative from the school level table? Thank you, Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin Thompson, and I'm the head of school at Easton Academy, a new private school that's starting next August in Bridgeport. And I think that a big takeaway from our group discussion, I think we came to the conclusion that just saying that we're going to do social emotional learning, it isn't enough, especially at the school level. It's really about getting that buy-in from everyone, teachers, students, and families in particular, because it's just so important for the school culture and the dynamic of what you're trying to accomplish with these students is to give them a better life. But yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you, Kevin. Can we get a representative from the group that was talking about the classroom level and the classroom perspective? That's a very important group. Come on.
So we had a lot of conversation about classroom teachers. We had a lot of conversation about the difference between making a part of the classroom culture and the classroom environment and the teachers feeling like it's another thing. And we talked from that perspective and how do you engage teachers in a culture of social emotional learning rather than just an add-on in the classroom. And then we actually moved on to music because two of us, I started my career as a music educator, and we had another one at the table and talked about how music and the arts really does foster a culture of social emotional learning and how just partnering with either a music provider in the school or something like that really does actually build that sense of classroom culture and a sense of school culture, along with supporting all of the social emotional learning goals.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Can we get a representative from the out of school time group to talk about an insight, question, or tension that came up in your discussion? A courageous representative. You don't have to capture the whole discussion. Just share one thing you're thinking about.
Yeah. Well, we talked about a whole multitude of things at this table. We're just kind of vibing with each other. But one of the things that we were talking about was why it's so difficult. I brought up the context of working on a mentorship program at my school and what we can do to kind of enhance the lessons that are happening in school outside of school time and continue those relationships. What we talked about in terms of the school, why it's so difficult, is one of the things that we were talking about was teacher burnout, which was mentioned. And so at our school, for example, we just transitioned to a new model, and our teachers are learning how to transition into that, and also meet the scores and test scores that are kind of mandated of them. And so we talked about those issues.
Thank you. Great tensions and issues. Can I get a representative from the folks that were talking about early childhood to share a thought, question, or tension?
We were all very good at sharing our blocks.
Perfect.
I'm David Schreiber from New Beginnings, and I'm actually surrounded by a bunch of Yaleys, but I'll be in the Yale Bowl tomorrow rooting for the other team. One of the things that we talked about a bunch of things. One of the things that struck us most was that, except for Dr. Jager's brief comment towards the end of his remarks, where he mentioned the phrase family involvement, that none of the panelists addressed in their context what was being done to engage the families in ESL work that's being done in the schools, recognizing that we have the kids for maybe 30 hours a week and the families have them for a lot longer. And we were talking a lot about what we need to do within the context of schools and in the context of birth to 3 or 4 childcare settings to further that particular issue so it makes it easier for the kids.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, and very well transitioned to, can we hear from the family and parents group?
Sure. Hi. So we actually talked a lot about how when it comes to schools or programs, our students are just as important as the parents, and the parents are just as important as the students. So we spoke a lot about the different kind of families and parents that we get and how we can try to get closer to them. Obviously, some families are easier than others, and so we're trying to get those tougher families just as involved. But it's going to take a lot of work, and we also discussed on language when it comes to workshops. We do a lot of reading workshops and now starting social emotional learning workshops, and we really want to encourage the families that this is an aid, this is to help them better understand their kids, rather than you're doing it wrong, and we just really want them to be comfortable for that.
Great. So I'm going to pass it back over to Morales, but before I do that, I just want to say that a couple things, mainly one, I think, that I feel like is coming up across the tables as folks shared, which is this notion that if we are going to do the work of school and the work of SEL in a way that is also the work of equity, we need to stand in solidarity with each other. We need to stand in solidarity with teachers. We need to stand in solidarity with districts. We need suburban districts to stand in solidarity with urban districts. We need to stand in solidarity with parents and with early child care providers. And I think that's, for me, a really useful takeaway, is to think about what does it mean to do this work in a way that's actually partnership oriented and actually about standing in solidarity, instead of the potential risk of, which is understandable to the extent that there's a ton of pressure on schools, but the potential risk of doing this work for an aim that doesn't actually stand in solidarity with the people that we're doing it for, with the needs of folks who are in the communities that we love. So, thank you.
Thank you, Gretchen. A big hand for Gretchen. And one more to all of you and to our panelists for having this great conversation. So thank you all so much. I hope that it was a stimulating and a call to action conversation for all of us. So before we transition to the next stage, the one thing that I wanted to share with everyone is that we're hoping and planning to have a workshop for the Bridgeport community on culturally responsive practices by our very own Dina Simmons from the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence in 2018. So stay tuned. That'll be sort of our follow-up to this. And we'll try to make that invitation out to the Bridgeport community, not just to the Bridgeport Public Schools. So again, thank you. That great follow-up to Gretchen's call to make sure that we are working in solidarity with each other. So yay. So now we're going to transition. Do we need to stand up and take a minute? We're going to stand up, take a quick stretch. Home stretch. Home stretch. We're 30 minutes out. We can do it.
Has been hosting Beyond Diversity trainings.
Oh, good. That's good. Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Joanna. All right. As Alana likes to do brain breaks. Everybody stretch. All right, big, good. Okay, good. All right. Okay. So, over the last year or so, we've had conversations with many of you and others in the Bridgeport community to assess the current state of social and emotional learning and the needs of the nonprofit and education sector in Bridgeport in order to inform the next chapter of the Foundation's work. Today, I'm pleased to share with you that in September, the Tauck Family Foundation Board approved our 2018-2023 strategy, which continues our commitment to Bridgeport and focus on social and emotional learning. Our hope is to build on the current efforts underway and the momentum in the community. However, we have made some refinements to our strategy that we'd like to share with you. First, over the past 5 years, as we've broadened our understanding of the systemic factors, causes, and problems of poverty, inequality, and the broader context in which we are working, we are shifting our language, practices, and approaches toward one of equity and inclusion of the entire Bridgeport community in order to be better, more assets-focused, authentic partners to our investees and the community at large. So this includes refining our mission, vision, and theory of change. So our new mission statement is to invest in organizations and initiatives that equip the children of Bridgeport, Connecticut with the necessary social and emotional skills to thrive academically and in life. Subtle changes, but important ones. And thanks to Dina for helping us with that. Our vision is for children in Bridgeport, Connecticut to be empowered and successful in their education and reach their full potential. Our theory of change is to invest long-term in organizations that support the holistic development of Bridgeport's children. We strengthen our nonprofit investees' capacity to improve learning environments and foster the social and emotional skills in children that contribute to well-being and academic success. Our approach includes multi-year general operating support, targeted capacity building support, collaborative partnerships, and knowledge building and sharing. So the biggest change is our target population. We focused on K through 5th grade for the last 5 years. However, after speaking with many of you and really understanding the research, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, we've shifted our target population to students across the educational continuum with a focus on early childhood through middle school. In some ways, this change reflects what we are already doing. Totally fell into it by accident. A lot of our investees were already working in pre-K through middle school, some pre-K through high school, and many of you pre-K through college, so that was great. But more importantly, we've made this shift because research tells us that investing in social emotional learning in early childhood yields significant long-term dividends. The earlier SEL interventions begin, the more likely children are to develop these skills and competencies. In addition, the Bridgeport community has identified early childhood as a priority and opportunity for SEL efforts, particularly an effort to tackle suspensions in grades pre-K through 2. There is also a great deal of research on the need for SEL in elementary and middle school, particularly as children begin to transition to adolescence. This is our strategic logic model. So one of the things you'll see is that we've shifted from portfolio management to collaborative partnerships because that's what we found we need to do. We need to have actual partnerships that are collaborative, and I think that's what we've been doing. But we really want to try to shift more in that direction and less about us and more about our investees, and I'll talk about that in a second too. And this is another visual related. It's our strategic impact map, and it talks about the different stakeholders in the community, our desired results, the investment areas of the foundation, and the impact that we're seeking. And this will all be on our website in about January, and I'll talk about, and Kim will talk about that in a second. So we will support organizations and initiatives implementing evidence-based social and emotional learning approaches and efforts that recognize the importance of the 5 skills the foundation has identified as malleable and critical to success: self-control, persistence, mastery orientation, academic self-efficacy, and social competence. But investees can work on any social emotional learning skills and competencies. We just want to make sure these are sort of included. And Dr. Stephanie Jones and the team at Hugsy are developing a taxonomy project which will help with that. Value and promote nurturing and positive relationships, experiences, and environments. Promote student trust and sense of belonging. Are culturally responsive and appropriate to the Bridgeport community, and engage families meaningfully as partners in this work. To quote Ronell, if you want to do this, let's talk. So now I'd like to invite Kim to share updates on next steps. And Kim will be spearheading our portfolio process moving forward. So anybody have any questions, talk to Kim.
Thank you. Oh, here we go. Okay. Good evening, everyone. As Morales mentioned, I'm Kim. I am honored to serve as the program associate for the Tauck Family Foundation. I'm honored to be here tonight. I'd like to echo Morales and say thank you to our investees for recently allowing us to film at your respective organizations, to see your SEL work in action and hear stories about your SEL journey. As the videos showed, you are clearly making a positive impact, not only on the children and families you serve, but also on staff and teachers within your organizations. I am grateful I had the opportunity to meet many of you in this room and see firsthand the fantastic work you do in the Bridgeport community. Thank you for also making me feel welcome. As we begin a new funding cycle in 2018, we want to continue the momentum in Bridgeport that is currently underway. The foundation remains committed to the Bridgeport community and will continue to invest in organizations and initiatives that equip the children of Bridgeport with the necessary social and emotional skills to thrive academically and in life. To that end, our plan is to circulate a request for proposals with clear and transparent selection criteria in late January, early February of 2018, with applications due in early spring. We are considering holding some type of information session with potential applicants after the RFP is disseminated, and we'll keep you posted if and when that happens. We promise that our application process will be more streamlined than in 2012 and 2013, though our due diligence and selection process will be just as thorough. By summer of 2018, our hope is to select 4 or 5 investees to partner with for 3 to 5 years. The foundation will once again provide multi-year general operating and targeted capacity building support. We will continue to thoroughly support our investees. As some mentioned in the videos, we are more than just about cute kids. We are an active partner and truly want to develop collaborative relationships with our investees in order to help them achieve their goals. To that end, in 2018 and beyond, we will maintain the same level of rigor we have with our current investees, and will continue to focus on supporting, measuring, and monitoring organizational and child outcomes. For those of you who end up back in our portfolio, the Foundation's expectations will be even higher, and we know you would expect no less. I am very excited about the SEL work that is well underway in Bridgeport and all the work that you're doing, and I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to work with you and the Foundation's next group of investees to further this work to serve students better and more deeply. I look forward to sharing more about next steps with you in the coming months. Thank you.
All right, home stretch. With that, I would like to introduce our board president, Liz Tauck Walters.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. So I'm the fifth. I fall between Peter and Kiki. And it's wonderful to see so many familiar faces in this room. You know, our work, I might have to go to my glasses, so just be prepared. Handwriting isn't so good. Our work is going to continue, as we just talked about, but I think this evening feels like such a capstone evening for us. It was 4 years ago that we were all gathered downstairs in the art gallery, and I know a number of you were with us back in June of that year. And that was our first gathering after choosing those first investees, and we had this very carefully created plan. But as a foundation, we had absolutely no hands-on experience with SEL. This was new for us. And we really didn't have experience in capacity building as a funder, or even really in being a truly place-based funder. We were newbies. And that meeting did not go quite according, not quite as we envisioned. And someone on the panel mentioned having a meeting that maybe didn't quite go as envisioned. It's okay. It was a little bit, we talked about emotions today and being able to name some of our emotions, and I'd like to name some of the emotions we on the foundation board felt after that meeting. There was some anxiety. There was some fear. There was a great deal of hope. And I hope that all of you, as you do this work, will remember that, because it is one of those key assets, that asset of persistence that we all in our lives need to remember. So I would like to first thank our investees from all of us at the Tauck Family Foundation for your patience and for your trust in us as we walked this path together and as we learned and grew together. I'd like to thank our advisory committee members, the academics from, certainly we've seen received a lot of help from both Yale and Harvard, but from universities here today and in each of our cohort meetings that have brought their expertise to us, community partners, and all the funders too, who have really come to help us and support us in this work. I would like to thank Morellis. We, as I said, had no experience in SEL or capacity building or being a place-based funder 5 years ago. I can't say that today. We have developed those expertise, or we've developed along that path and are hopefully, we're not there yet, it's a continual path, but so much of it we owe to Morellis. And I would like to acknowledge that we have had changes in staff here at the foundation. I want to acknowledge Eden Waring, who really helped us first envision an opportunity to be a far more strategic and impactful funder. She was our executive director prior to Morellis. I would like to also acknowledge that a number of our investees have had changes in their leadership in the time in these last 5 years, new EDs, new superintendents. And that's a little bit of a scary, risky thing sometimes for a community or as a funder. Will things change? And you know what? It didn't. Each of those changes happened and the work continued, the persistence continued, and in some cases it was strengthened. And so I want to thank all of you who have allowed that to happen. And it certainly happened for us here at the Tauck Foundation, but we've had some other changes, and we haven't always had a program associate on staff over the last 5 years. And that has meant that this work, for a good percentage of these last 5 years, has been done by 1.5 staff members. Morellis and Amy, who now sit at that staff, and she wore 2 hats for a lot of this time and made it happen. And I just know that we all appreciate everything she brings and the heart and great, smart thinking that Morellis brings to all of us in this work. So, Morellis. Finally, I would like to take my three-pointed hat off, really to the entire Bridgeport community. We at the foundation are just so impressed and appreciative of how this community, and at almost every level, has embraced this SEL work. And it has been a joy to see the hard work that you all have done, each in your respective organizations, in your classrooms with your kids, but collectively as a community, to see it be highlighted and acknowledged nationally. I know there was a wonderful panel just in October at the Grantmakers for Education Conference in Washington, D.C. that highlighted what's happening here in Bridgeport, and certainly it was amazing to see the work in the district shared through the Novo Education First publication. And I think that's where the real power comes from, that this sort of full community commitment when we all work together. It was wonderful today to hear that somebody's here in this room, Laura from Wakeman's, who said, I was at a BCAC meeting last week and I heard about this and we need to be involved. And so great. I think I feel that energy happening in the community, and it's not just with our investees, but it expands beyond, and that is so, so exciting. And it expands beyond. We go on from here. So in the words of a very trusted and recently departed advisor to the Tauck family, and the Tauck family members in this room will know who I'm talking about, onward. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz, and thank you all so much. I'm going to cry, so I'm just going to try to push through. Okay, so I'd like to remind everyone that we're going to take a group photo at the end of the session today. There's also an evaluation at your seat, so if you could take a minute to fill that out, that would be great. For those of you that are environmentally conscious and would like to return your name badges, you can do that on your way out. One thing that I would like to make sure that we remember today is that learning is social and emotional. And so I think that coupled with Gretchen's call to action, tact, and solidarity, and the need for all of us to work toward a more equitable community, let's remember this in our work and what we do. So with that, I would like to invite Dr. Dina Simmons to come up to do an exercise with us. And I would again like to thank you all so much for your partnership, trust, and collaboration over the last 5 years. I couldn't have done this work without all of you. And I appreciate you all tremendously. And I know that the next 5 are going to be even better. So thank you.
Gratitude exercise, and what we're going to do is we're going to stand in a circle. So this is a very fitting image. We're going to stand in a circle, and I would love for everyone to share one emotion word that has manifested from this experience today. So we're going to form a circle. We can all do that now, and then we're all going to share one emotion word that came from this experience today. We have both an opportunity and a challenge to do this within 5 minutes. Everyone in the circle? Yeah, almost there. All right. My word is inspired. Happy. Joyfulness. Hopeful. Inspired. Committed. Hopeful.
Grateful.
Hopeful.
Connected.
Joyful.
Grateful.
Inspired. Motivated.
Thankful.
Appreciated.
Hopeful.
Optimistic. Appreciate. Renewed. Invigorated.
Inspired and grateful. Family.
Enriched.
Enlightened.
Excited.
Active.
Hopeful.
Happy.
Grateful.
Calm.
Excited. Committed.
Powerful.
Determined.
Grateful.
Fulfilled.
So may you all take these words with you and take what we've learned here today and do the work, not just speak the work, but do the work. So